It's here, the Halo Infinite update we've all been waiting for. It is here, it is here, it is here. 343 and Microsoft are releasing the major announcement or high-level look at what has been going on with Halo Infinite, because let's admit it, it's been pretty dang quiet up until today, and we're getting a lot of good information, and I'm not going to bury the lead here. Halo Infinite, fall 2021. So a little bit less than a year, because fall technically could lead all the way up until, later in the season. So technically in less than a year from now, we should all be playing Halo Infinite, being Master Chief, not DJ Master Chief, or Master Chief Cat, if you've seen that weird sort of Halo or Xbox commercial. Anyways, so fall 2021 is when we are going to be getting more game time with Halo Infinite. That's the great news. And so the good news here is also that they're sharing a lot more details, and they're not hiding behind Craig memes. I mean, they're addressing things head on, and let's just talk about it. So I'm going to include a playback video here of all the screenshots that are in the post. I've also gotten a little scoop here later in the video, so make sure to stick around. But these images you will see looping here on the video are what are being shown off in the game, or in the post. And so let's just talk about it. They first addressed the visual fidelity and why everything honestly just looks so incredibly bad. And they said the reason for that is that they were focused on gameplay being fluid, not pretty. They said features from global illumination and dynamic time of day to GPU-driven rendering and variable rate shading were all in active development during that demo, and things were obviously not finalized. And they said much of the graphics team's capacity, along with some of the key technical artists, was focusing on achieving high resolution and performance leading up to the demo. This is why everything looks so incredibly bad. I added that last part. But effectively what they're saying is, hey, a lot of the features and functionality in the game, they just weren't done, and they were just behind. And that is ultimately why things ended up getting delayed. But the good news here is that they weren't saying, hey, this is actually what it's supposed to look like. They're fully aware, and you can look at these screenshots. Again, as long as these screenshots are representative of like actual screenshots and just not pre-rendered stuff, like the screenshots, especially like the multiplayer that they show there just very briefly, look pretty darn good. And even the textures on those weapons look pretty good. But the key here is graphics are being overhauled, and they've already said they've made progress on better quality global illumination, ambient occlusion, shadows, volumetric lighting, sky, atmosphere, and almost quite literally everything else. And they've also addressed issue with GPU-driven rendering and texture streaming solutions that should mitigate the LOD popping and texture quality issues that were prevalent in the July demo, in that the art and content side across all disciplines such as environment, lighting, weapons, and FX are already being updated, or have been updated, or will be updated. Everything is being touched, and it's just going to look better. And I think at the end of the day, we all know we're going to get a much better product next year when we are playing this because of this. And they specifically, well, they didn't say it in this language, but they addressed why Craig was literally dead inside. They said facial animations on non-playable characters or NPCs was not fully implemented in the July build, and that's why Craig looked incredibly stoic. And they said that all characters have a neutral face model by default, and then they add the customizations to the character on an as needed basis and everything else. And that's why Craig looked dead inside, because he didn't have, well, those features. And there have been significant changes to other characters in 3D modeling, which is good. And you can see some of this 3D or the modeling here of the Spartans and everything else that are showing some of the customizations. Customizations are going to be a key part of this. I don't know if this was previously known, but they explicitly confirmed that seasons are going to be a part of Halo Infinite. Not a big surprise. They've also, again, reconfirmed that Halo multiplayer will be free to play, and that there will be no loot boxes and no randomness in rewards. There are going to be premium customizations to the character models. I think that's a given in a free-to-play title, and that's effectively what they're going to be doing. That's how they're going to monetize that game. And so that's where sort of this scoop comes in here, because I actually have a scoop. GameStop was going to be offering a free in-game customization, which you can see here if you buy some of your stuff from that retail outlet. And so this is what your Spartan would have been dressed like. It would have been exclusive in-game Halo Infinite armor coating if you purchase a Halo or Xbox product at GameStop. So you won't find this anywhere else. This was a promotion that was supposed to run, but obviously this did not happen because this game did not get pushed out the door. But I would expect that this same armor coating will be part of a GameStop up promotion next year when it does occur. So there you go. There is an exclusive look at some of that armor coatings, and I would expect that other retailers like Best Buy, for example, I don't know if Amazon would, they sometimes don't get involved with that stuff, but I would imagine that Best Buy would also be included in that as well. It'll be interesting to see how they approach the free cosmetics, but they say there will also be tons of free customization content throughout things like playing the campaign, challenges, rewards, special event for different skills, and legacy rewards such as Halo 5 SR 152, and there's going to be a progress system and a whole lot more. So we're getting a lot of information out of 343, which is good. Now, they didn't provide a ton of they're not providing any story details. This was very much an update from them to be like, look, we have heard the feedback, and this is specifically how we are addressing the feedback from July. We know that July was, for lack of a better word, a dumpster fire. While some people, kind of sugarcoat it and say, it kind of looks like we all know that the visual fidelity of what we saw in July was not up to Halo standards. And they even admit that it was not up to Halo standards. And I really hope that these multiplayer shots that we're seeing, because look at the volumetric lighting, look at the different aspects of that environment, and it looks so much better than what we saw. And I can only hope that they are going to actually include this visual fidelity, because let's be clear, if they show off these screenshots, what they claim are screenshots or just in-game shots of multiplayer and the weapons, and then we get into the game and it looks nothing like that, people are going to be angry. And that is I can't even imagine that they would go back down that rabbit hole of making promises and then not delivering, because that would just let's just move on. Anyway, so these character models look really good, and what they're showing here are just some of the different aspects that you can customize, and those are going to be the primary monetization mechanism for the multiplayer. This is an interesting strategy that effectively, from what we understand so far, that the campaign is going to be you buy that game, and then I would assume that it would also come with maybe some customizations for when you move over to multiplayer. Multiplayer will be completely free, and then they're going to monetize it through in-game purchases, not loot boxes. I just really want to reiterate that, but in-game purchases of customizations for your character model. That's a really interesting business model, because I can't imagine then, at least I hope not, that they're going to charge $60 to $70 for the single player campaign. We'll see how that shakes out, because they're going to try to extract more dollars on you in that multiplayer side. We will find out. That is something that is still up in the air. We still don't have a good look at what the actual campaign or story narrative, at least I don't think so yet, of what is going to be coming in Halo Infinite. They were trying to keep things relatively vague. If you go back and kind of read through the post, this was sort of I don't want to call it triage post, because it's too long after the July event. This post was really just dedicated that they're listening to the feedback. If you go look how many times they say, hey, we're listening to the feedback. They even talk about mechanisms, how they're reading the Reddit forums and they're reading everything else. And they really start to digest that, hey, this is a community-driven game. Although we hear that every single game, that we're listening to the feedback. Well, of course they are. But in this post, their explicit intent was to address just about every bit of feedback that was announced or made fun of or memed from the July event. So the big question is when are we going to get our next information drop? Well, we don't really know. But what I would expect is that it won't be until, more than likely, I would expect things maybe in the springtime. Because you think about it, if they're going for a fall 2021 launch, they've now got to revamp their marketing efforts. And it wouldn't honestly surprise me if they're just going to pull out the playbook that they had for the launch this year, just scribble out the number 20 and just put it 21, and then they're going to follow that same pattern, at least in some capacity, because hey, they've already planned it out. I would imagine it's probably going to launch pretty close to almost exactly when it would have launched this year, but obviously with all of the updates. And I think, seeing at least, as long as these screenshots hold true compared to what we have seen, the wait is going to be worth it. More specifically because, hey, if you wanted to play this game and you didn't have an Xbox, well, you're kind of screwed, at least a Series X or S. So at least when this game does come out next year, you should easily be able to go into Best Buy or GameStop and pick up a console and then just go play it and not have to worry about anything else. So we're going to keep our eyes peeled, keep your eyes on the lookout for things that might have been missed in some of those screenshots. The post just went out a little bit ago, and I wanted to get this content out there. And there's going to be a lot of nitpicking over some of the finer aspects of those weapons and those textures and everything else that we can kind of, milk out of that story. But we're going to be on the lookout for the next big update. Not expecting anything soon, but once we hear more, I'll be sure to let you know. So hit that subscribe button.